because without peace, no knowledge is transferred, whether it is spiritual knowledge or secular knowledge. So this is a prayer which the teacher repeats before the student, and the idea is, let us learn together. He never says, I'm teaching you and you are learning. Let us learn together. Let us become vigorous together. Let us enjoy the fruits of our learning together, so that there is peace, there is better understanding, an increase of knowledge as a result of this learning. So I'll start with that, and then there will be three famous hymns composed by the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Srima Sharda Devi, and Swami Vivekananda, which you will repeat after me. So we will begin with the first Vedic prayer, as I said. It is a prayer where co-learners, not teacher and student, because in the whole verse you'll find there's no mention of who is a teacher and who is a student. Of course, the teacher is reciting this, but they are both co-learners. So Sahana Vavatu. So that is the hymn. So all of you repeat. I'll break it, the whole thing, into smaller parts so that you repeat every time I repeat, then we'll repeat it together. Om Sahana Vavatu. Om Sahana Vavatu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Viryam Karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya. Om Sthapakaya Sarvadharma Swarupine. Avatara Varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Jananim Saradam Devim. Saradam Devim. Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum. Padapadme tayo shritva. Pranamami muhurmuhu. Namasri Yatirajaya. Vivekananda Suraye. Satchit Sukha Swarupaya. Swamine Tapaharine. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu. Gurur Devo Maheshwara. Guru Sakshat Parat Brahma. Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti, Shanti. So, dear devotees and friends, and all those who have assembled here for a very special event. I call it special because it's the first, probably the first public event organized by the devotees and admirers of Sri Ramakrishna in Leicester. There have been informal meetings, many Swamis have visited, but being so near Pune, I thought it would be nice if we could have periodic sessions like these, because all of you, the most of you visit our Born and Center regularly, and all of you are most welcome. But it's easier if one person travels to Leicester and all of you get the benefit here rather than all of you coming there. So it's a good beginning and a very important topic, especially for devotees of not only Sri Ramakrishna, but devotees of all those who belong to the Sanatana Dharma and also the other traditions like Buddhism and Jainism, and there are other religions of the Indian subcontinent where this topic, japa and meditation, are most relevant. I'm not saying the other traditions do not have the concept of japa and meditation. Mind you, there are two words here. One is japa, that is the repetition of the holy name, and meditation. So that implies there are two different things. They're different topics. They are not the same. That is one point. But if you see, even the Semitic religions have their own idea of japa and meditation. They are more or less combined. And japa and meditation together assumes the name of prayer in their tradition. So prayer is as effective as japa and meditation. But in the Indian tradition, somehow that got split because, especially the Buddhist tradition, because they, though they believe in the power of repetition of the holy name, for them meditation is more important. In fact, after Patanjali, we will not go into any philosophical discussion. I'll keep it very simple because we are dealing with our daily life, how relevant japa and meditation is in our daily life. So we do not need to go deep into the philosophy of japa or meditation. But still, we have to find out why certain traditions give more importance to meditation, like the tradition of Patanjali's yoga. Patanjali is Patanjali's yoga is one system among the 6 systems of philosophy, Vedanta and other systems. There are 6 systems basically recognized in the eternal Hindu religion. But of them, Patanjali's yoga is one system which is very close to the Sankhya system. So, in this yoga, you need not believe in a personal God. So, there's no question of holy name in this. Though some traditions who follow the Patanjali's yoga system of sadhana or spiritual practice, they do believe in the power of holy name as Om or some other symbol. But they say you can take up any symbol and meditate on it. So from that, I believe, because Patanjali and Buddhism, the Buddhist system of meditation, are very closely linked to each other. So there, meditation forms an important part, or in many traditions, meditation is the only thing that they do as spiritual practice. Though some Buddhist traditions do repeat the holy name, especially Tibetan Buddhism, where certain sound symbols like Bija mantra and other sound symbols are used. But Tibetan Buddhism, as you all know, has borrowed a lot of ideas from the Shakta tradition, worship of God as a goddess, as a feminine, uh, as a feminine deity that is known as Shakti Puja, or the philosophy of Tantras. In Tantras, a lot of importance is given to certain sound symbols which represent different deities. And then there is the Vaishnava tradition and many devotional traditions where repetition of the holy name, and there are thousands of names. There's Rama, Krishna, Shiva, Om Namah Shivaya, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So you'll find so many traditions suddenly emerging after the Upanishadic age, which gave so much of importance to the Nama Japa, as it is known, because it is the simplest way one can uh, follow spiritual practices, especially devotion to a personal God. So every personal God has a name associated with that personal God, and that name is given so much of importance that Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Nam Nami Abhed. Some saints believe that even if you don't accept the personal God or you don't meditate on him, just a repetition of his name, because they are inseparable. The name and the form that you meditate upon, they are same. So repeating the name is as good as visualizing your personal Ishta, or the personal God whom you worship, in whatever form he may be, he or she may be. So the name is as important. That tradition, the word Tantra, gives so much of importance to the spoken word or sound, because they believe, as many Indian traditions believe, that the universe has come from sound. And you will find a echo in the Bible even. Christ says, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. You see, the seed of this japa or repetition of the holy name can be found even in other traditions. Of course, they believe more in prayer. If you see Christianity, Jewish tradition, and Islam especially, though they have a name for God, but in Jewish tradition, you are not even supposed to recite the name of God, because God is so holy, he cannot be reduced to just a name. So, but still, you will find that their prayer is a combination of japa and meditation. But still, the Christian tradition, at least the Bible, begins the gospel according to St. John. He begins with the sentence, in the beginning was the Word. By word, he means the name of God. It may be a symbol. In India, we believe it is Om. So all our mantras in our japa tradition, or in the Nama japa tradition, they begin with Om. Om is considered to be a sacred symbol. There may be other symbols in other religions, but whatever Jesus meant by the word, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That means Nam, Word, and God were not different. It's a philosophy upon which the whole of Tantras is built. This is just a theoretical background to what we shall discuss. So japa, the idea of japa, especially the idea of japa with the Bij mantra, which is a sound symbol, which does not represent a particular form, but it is connected to that form. To different deities have specific sound symbols. Apart from the name of the deity, the practitioners of God or the divine as a goddess, the Shakti tradition or the Tantra tradition, they believed that certain sounds, they are not arbitrary sounds that somebody sat together, oh, let us give this sound to this deity, this particular bija sound to this deity. It's not like that. These were sounds that they discovered or they realized after a lot of meditation. The sound spontaneously came to them. They literally heard it. So they are not arbitrary sounds, mind you. Each one of these sound is realized in the consciousness of its founder. Of course, we do not have names who discovered them because they were far superior sadhakas who never bothered about having some kind of copyright or something. They just, whatever they heard, they shared it with the entire humanity. And since then, you will find these sounds, bija mantras, are inseparable from the deities whom they represent. Most probably, most of the bijas, I'm saying most because not all, represent Shakti. So every aspect of a masculine deity has a feminine counterpart, Shiva and Shakti, Purusha and Prakriti. In Sankhya, Purusha is pure consciousness. But how do we recognize when we have to meditate, when we have to repeat some names? We worship Shakti because the manifest reality, which is not separate from the Purusha, but because it gets separated at a certain stage. In the beginning was the Word was with God. It was with God, means it was God Himself, but somehow it separates, and from the Logos or the Word, the whole creation began. So the idea is Shiva and Shakti, whether you say Tantras or Sankhya, they are inseparable. But somehow, due to a mysterious power, they appear as if they are separated. Purusha appears as Prakriti, then the whole play of Prakriti begins. By Prakriti, there are two aspects of Prakriti. One is the Prakriti which is one with the Purusha, which is Avyakta Prakriti. Avyakta means that which is not manifest. But there is another Prakriti which we see around us, all the forces of nature, subtle or gross, including the forces of the mind. Every force or every material object that you see is made of vibrations. You see, modern physics has confirmed that. There's nothing else apart from vibration. So, different vibrations at different levels of vibration, some appear as matter, some appear as forces, gravitational force. So, if you go deep into modern physics, modern quantum physics, you will find that the thin line that divides matter and force or energy vanishes. Sometimes atoms appear like packets of energy, or sometimes those energy particles suddenly assume the form of particle. So whether it is a particle or a wave of energy, we cannot distinguish when you go at the subatomic or quantum level. So that same principle, Shiva and Shakti, the pure consciousness, as it were, appears as this manifest universe. In Advaita, they call it Maya. The simple explanation they give is it is an appearance. Shiva is not separate from Shakti, but that is only when they become one. But rest of the time, we are grappling with this Shakti more than Shiva, because that pure consciousness, though we perceive it every moment of our life, we cannot, every moment of our life, we are conscious. We are conscious of the world, we are conscious of change, but we get carried away by Prakriti, because Prakriti is very easy to grasp. But at the same time, reality is something which, according to Hindu spirituality, the pure consciousness, though we live and die in consciousness, we somehow ignore its reality. Ignore in the sense we are so much enmeshed in our day-to-day transactions, in our day-to-day life with the wonderful, colorful Prakriti. There's a lot of color because the more she manifests herself, the Shakti, power, it shows lot of variety. So there's a lot of variety in nature, and our human limited consciousness of the jiva gets fascinated by this prakriti. And he forgets the Purusha, which is in the core of his personality. Purusha is always there. The pure consciousness, without that, Prakriti will not manifest. So, to put very simply, without going into philosophy, if we want to explain, japa and meditation is a very, very simple technique evolved after centuries of sadhana, centuries of philosophical discussion. Finally, the Tantra in fact means technology. If there is a philosophy, if there is a science, a pure science, it's of no use till those scientific principles are applied in the form of technology. Newton's law. How will it help me? It will help me if I use those principles of Newton's law to develop a machine that will help me in my day-to-day life. So that is technology. Tantra literally means technology. It's a technology to bring the highest philosophical ideas, which are of practically no value till we practice them. So that is the need. There is a need for understanding practical spirituality. Spirituality as a theory, all of us can understand. We study, we do a lot of swadhyaya, many things we do. We learn, read. Our knowledge, the cognition, the cognitive part of philosophy is very easy. But the challenge is how to convert it into a technology that will help us solve our day-to-day problems. And that role is played by japa and meditation. Because philosophy will not help us understanding the Upanishads, the Gita. We can go on endlessly, but they will remain as frozen ideas in our brain till we bring it out and try to practice a little of what the philosophy tells us to do. So Sankhya, Yoga, Vedanta, and there are so many wonderful philosophies, 6 philosophies basically, which Hindus discovered. And there are other religions. Buddhism has a philosophy of its own, which is, as I said, based on this meditation. In fact, the whole of Buddhist philosophy or Buddha's philosophy is completely based on meditation. If there is no meditation, there is no Buddhism. If somebody says one is a Buddhist and he does not meditate, he is not a Buddhist, because the whole idea behind Buddhism is that all the problems that we encounter is because of our wrong thinking, which leads to wrong action. In fact, Zoroastrianism, I was surprised. Zoroastrianism is a very old religion. Unfortunately, there are only few Parsis now living. In fact, those Zoroaster's main thing is he has a very, very simple philosophy: right thought, right deed, and that is right thought leads to right deed. Buddha put it in another way: as you think, so you become. So, since the mind is involved, Buddhism said you don't have to believe in any philosophy. His philosophy is very simple. He said, since the mind is the root cause of all our problems, the joy that we get, the misery that we suffer, it's only because of our thought. Then why don't you deal with thought? Because thought becomes actions. So since you can't change your actions, good actions or evil actions, they are not under your control, because it's controlled by the mind, the thoughts, which are more subtle, more finer than the actions. Then if you just spend your whole life doing good deeds, trying to do good deeds without cultivating a good mind. So right thought gives rise to right action. It's the other way around. We can't put the cart before the bullock. Bullock has to pull the cart. So the mind is given so much importance. That's why I said the whole of Buddhist philosophy tries to solve all the problems of life as Buddha saw them, because he saw all the 3 major problems. When he was first exposed to those problems, he was leading a very happy, luxurious life in a palace, because his father knew if the moment he sees misery, he will leave this world. He'll not stay in the world anymore. Some astrologer had predicted. So he was shown only the best side, the good side of life, luxurious side. And he lived a luxurious life till he one day decided to go out and see life for himself. And then it was a shock for him. Said there's so much of suffering. So the three types of suffering that he saw made him leave the palace immediately and start a quest to solve those problems. He said, if these problems are going to come to me today or tomorrow, so I need to solve it. What's the source of that problem? How do I solve it? So the three miserable sights that he saw, only three incidents were enough to convert him. Convert him in the sense, develop renunciation in him. That is the sight of a sick man, the sight of an old man, and the sight of a dead man. So he said, ultimately these sufferings will come to us. We can't escape. So his whole philosophy was based upon suffering and the cause of suffering and how to get rid of suffering permanently, which he calls nirvana. And the method he used was meditation. So much for the importance of meditation in our spiritual life. But what exactly meditation is, whether we follow the Buddhist tradition, whether we follow the Patanjali's yoga tradition, whether we follow the Christian tradition, Christians also have meditation. Though they believe, as I said, in their tradition, Christians and other Semitic religions, japa and meditation are combined together to with a simple sadhana, which is prayer. So prayer includes both. We shall see how japa and meditation lead to prayer, or how prayer indirectly helps you to do japa and meditation. Now we'll come to, as I said, this is just a theoretical background to know, because I'll be referring to these terms, and they include all traditions. Let us now first, these two different words, one is japa and meditation in our daily life. Deliberately, I have used these two words because they are totally different. Though one leads to the other, one is not the same as other. We loosely call any spiritual practice that we do as meditation. But Patanjali makes a very clear distinction. He calls it pratyahara, leaving the first four steps. I'm not discussing those. They are very basic. Yama, niyama, asana. Asana, everybody knows. Yoga means asanas for a majority of the people. Then we have pranayama. Even pranayama is very popular. Control of breath. But after that, when we enter into the practice of meditation, according to Patanjali, meditation is very difficult. It is the seventh stage. The fifth stage is pratyahara, which is the first stage. I'll explain what it is. Then we come to dharana, which can be loosely translated as concentration, which is not meditation. And seventh step is dhyana or meditation. Now that is meditation as different from japa. So let us see how japa leads to meditation. First, you have to know that there are four stages, and the fourth, of course, is samadhi, which is a higher version of dhyana. When dhyana deepens, it leads to samadhi. Let us not go, because they are not part of the samadhi, is a goal to be attained, whereas the previous three, pratyahara, dhyana, pratyahara, dharana, and dhyana, these are steps. But in modern parlance, all the three are combined, and in a loose way, if you go to any place, they'll say, teach us meditation. They mean either pratyahara or dharana or dhyana. They don't make any distinction. Just sitting and closing our eyes does not lead to meditation. That is what Patanjali will make it very clear. It may lead to some kind of pratyahara if you are lucky. If you are more lucky, it may lead to concentration. But only when that concentration deepens, it will lead to real meditation, which is known as dhyana. From that dhyana, the Buddhist traditions or all traditions, we cannot say who has borrowed from whom. Some people say Buddha is Patanjali, of course, has come much later historically. But Patanjali's yoga is not his creation. He was the compiler of the Yoga Sutras, which existed even before. So let us not go into the historical aspects. The dhyana word has been taken into Buddhism. Dhyana has become Zen. So we have Zen Buddhism, which which devotes a lot of time to some kind of awareness meditation. That's another field. So we'll discuss that in great detail. What are the types of meditation? And first, let us now go to the most fundamental aspect of spiritual life, which is japa, especially in our Ramakrishna tradition and other Hindu traditions which follow the tradition of bhakti, a devotion to a personal God. Because if there is no personal God, there is no japa because there is no divine name. So you associate a form which you love, which you like, which you select from innumerable deities and avatars and saints. It can be anyone. Any personal form which you like is known as Ishta. Ishta means that which I like. So there is an Ishta Devata. There are many Devatas, but among all the Devatas, I like one particular Devata. That is Ishta Devata. That is one concept if we have to understand what japa is. And that Ishta Devata has a name. So Nam and Nami are Abhed. So we think that repeating the name and visualizing the Ishta Devata, though they appear as different processes, one involves a visual meditation, visualization, and another involves repetition, either loudly or mentally. Even if you mentally repeat, there is a sound involved. So when according to Vedanta, according to all Indian philosophy, Nama and Rupa are abheda, they cannot be separated. The moment I say table, a form comes to my mind, you cannot separate. Or the moment you see a table, the name comes. It may be different in different traditions, but one name is associated with one object. So Nam and Nami Abhed can be understood in that way also. So when you think of the Ishta, he has a name. And when you think of the name, the form of the Ishta. So name and form cannot be separated. But they appear to us as separate. When you see a table, the thought that it is a table, or when you utter the word table, the visualization automatically does not come. They don't occur together. If they occur together, then we would have been very successful in meditation. The name and form, if they merge, then our goal is achieved. But unfortunately, when we think of the name, we cannot think of the form. When we think of the form, we cannot think of the name. We think in isolation of these things. So that is why what japa does is, when you do japa, which ultimately will lead to meditation, you try to combine the name and form. Though they are one and the same, and we have understood that, our Guru has told us, but we still do not feel it. Ideally, if you are repeating the name, every time you repeat the name with or without closing the eyes, suppose you close your eyes and repeat the name mentally, the sound form will be there, mental sound, but it may or may not be associated with the form which is represented by that name. So it does not come automatically. It requires years and years of practice. First, the form will come, and as soon as you see the form, you try to repeat the name. The name remains in your consciousness, but the form vanishes. So how to combine the name and the form? So the idea came, the Tantras discovered that the form has, the name and the form can be connected. I mean, the form is associated with the name with a certain sound symbol which will make that process happen faster. This is a simple explanation. It is far deeper than what, if you go into the in Tantra Shastra, they will say Bija is, for some traditions, Bija is everything. Because Bija is that which connects the name and the form. So the name of the deity on whom you are meditating has a Bija, and without Bija, Bija is like a seed. So every time you repeat that, automatically it will help you to expedite the process of visualizing on the form or understanding the true nature of the form. So they give so much of importance to the Bij mantra, which normally in all traditions is between Om, which is the universal Bija. It is known as Pranava. The word Pranava means it is a universal sound. The other bijas are sounds associated with a particular deity, whereas Om is a universal sound. Om can go with Krishna's name, with Ram. That's why you find Om is there, Om Namah Shivaya, Shiva's name. Any deity in Hinduism, you'll find in the beginning everything starts with Om. And even the mantras, even the Vedic mantras, they normally start with Om, because that is the belief that from Om, which is the universal sound, all these other sounds have come. But there are some special sounds which are known as Bija, which help you in your meditation, which help you in your concentration, which ultimately leads to meditation. When the state of meditation or dhyana comes, if meditation is understood at dhyana, then you neither need the bija nor you need the name. Everything merges into a state where there is no object. Deity means he is an object, and then there is a subject. So the subject says, I am meditating on the deity. So I need a mantra to connect us, and I repeat it. So that is how japa slowly, when that japa intensifies, you will find that the subject and the object merge. So there's nothing left except pure consciousness. That's the simplest philosophy. So though we start with japa, that is not the end. But if you see Sri Ma Sharda Devi, who gave lot of importance to the practice of japa, because she found this is the easiest way one can acquire spirituality. In this busy life, we cannot spend much time understanding the Upanishads, meditate on the intricate ideas of Upanishads, and then analyze so much and all those things. So she says Japat Siddhi, means just by repetition of japa will give you everything that you get by the study of the Vedas. Of course, in the Vedas itself, there are so many verses which say repetition of pranava or om will lead you to the highest realization. But it is not as simple as that, because it requires persistent practice. So japa, the word japa, acquires all its power by its repetition. Japa means repetition of one thing. So now why repetition? Why can't we repeat every day, say for 1 hour? We can repeat so many stotras or so many prayers. You can do Gayatri, you can do this, you can do hundreds. But why one particular japa, if it is repeated, gives results faster? That is something which has to be understood. It is a psychological thing. It's nothing to do with spirituality. You see, every time we want to develop a skill, forget spirituality, any skill, even to type properly, you need to type once, you need to type twice, you need to type, or develop any skill, sports skill, physical skills. The more you repeat, they call it practice. We call it sadhana, that's all. So the more you practice, the more adept you become in that particular skill. It's as simple as that. So repeated habits, they give rise to a rise in the skill level. So if you want to acquire any skill in life, it is achieved only through repetition. No matter how much theoretically you understand. A person may understand football, he may understand everything about football, but till he goes and plays and goes on playing again and again and again and practicing, he will not become a good football player. He may understand everything theoretically, but he will not become a good football player. Similarly, they say in a very important conversation took place in Kathamrita, or the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, where Hriday, you see, all of us love variety. If somebody tells you just sit and repeat this name, we get bored. No, no, can we not do something else? Because we want variety, and that is the play of Prakriti. Nature always tells you or mesmerizes you by showing variety. That Sri Ramakrishna gives a beautiful example. He said a child is playing with toys. So the mother, if it gets bored, she gives more toys. You play with more toys. So the more the variety, at least the mother is at peace. The child will be so busy. But a wise child, or maybe after he's tired of seeing so much of variety, just wants to go back to the mother. And then the child will start crying. Only then the mother says, okay, now I'll take you. It's a simple example, but Sri Ramakrishna says, you see how variety deceives us. So japa means uniformity, which nobody likes. That's how our personality is. It's a built-in phenomena in us. Because when we were children, when we grew up, the world has always thrown at us a lot of variety. And the more variety and the more things we are exposed to engage us, we have become more restless. It doesn't require rocket science to understand this. If you have 100 things to worry about, your mind will be more restless than somebody else who has 10 things to worry about. It's a simple science. So what japa aims to do is reverse the tendency of multiplicity or this variety, this diversity. Provided we feel we had enough of this diversity, it is really causing us, we do not know that the peacelessness or the misery that we are suffering is because of this diversity. Because diversity appears to us as very colorful. Everybody wants color in life. But the problem is, along with that, restlessness comes. With the restlessness, you lose peace. Everybody seeks peace by just trying diverse things. But the more they try diverse things, just to pass time or maybe to change the mood, it will find that it needs now newer and newer things to keep it peaceful and happy. It will be peaceful for some time. Just as the child will be happy if it is given a new toy. It will enjoy it, but then it gets bored. It wants something else. So variety leads to more variety. This is the simple truth Buddha taught. He says the more restless your mind is, and the restlessness is because of desires, which is something we don't want to give up. Because we are trained, or the child is exposed to more and more diversities. Whole education is built on that. But if somebody was wise enough, that's how geniuses are born, they tell him enough is enough. If you want to be a good doctor, you should give up diversity. Focus on your profession. Just do one thing perfectly. See, it's not just meditation. Even in our daily life, those who have succeeded, they have sacrificed diversity for, they have day and night about surgery and nothing else. That's how they became surgeons. They have given up so many things in life. If they wanted to have the best of other things and then still at the same time become a good surgeon, it is not possible. So somewhere we have to draw a line and say that in this much of diversity is fine. In simple words, this is what is meant by renunciation. It appears as if it's a very tough word, difficult thing. Why we are told about it. It's just a practical idea that if you want to excel in anything, if you want to be a good doctor or a good surgeon, you have to sacrifice other things. You can't have parties, you can't have everything, and then at the same time, a good surgeon. You can't, because you have to give in the amount of You have to sacrifice diversity for one particular thing which you want to excel in. So similarly, the idea behind japa is by repetition it gathers power and it becomes more fruitful in our life. So the question is, why can't we repeat different names? And why do we have this idea of Ishta? Any god is fine. I mean, there is no distinction between Rama or Krishna, Shiva, Jesus, Buddha. Any form is fine provided you stick to it. So the very idea of japa or holding on to one particular thought, whether it's Buddhism also they have this kind of repeated thoughts, but how to do it and why? What is the function of japa? First thing is it reduces a little bit of diversity in our life. That's the most difficult part of it because we have been used to diversity right from childhood, and the diversity is growing so much that you cannot expect anyone, especially in our day-to-day life, to give up diversity and dedicate more time to japa. That would be the biggest challenge. It has to be done very, very slowly. That's why they say in the beginning you start with some repetition, then gradually increase it so that the diversity that is in your life reduces and you get the full benefit of japa or repetition of the holy name. There's another psychological truth why japa helps us in getting some kind of peace or solving our problems. One of the most important things is lack of peace, or according to Buddhism, they say there are so many different words for anxiety. For there is anxiety, there is uh, worry. There's subtle differences. Worry is one thing, anxiety is one thing. Anxiety may be because of something that you anticipate, which may or may not happen. Worry is about something that you really see in front of you and it is worrying you because you know it is troubling you. Whereas anxiety can be a hidden anxiety that is because of uncertainty. So it's better to use the word uncertainty. Uncertainty is because the problem of uncertainty is handled by this japa. The only thing that helps you to remove uncertainty in our life, our day-to-day life, is to repeat the holy name. Repetition has value because at least when you are doing it, we are so certain that one japa will be followed by another repetition, which is the same name. Then you know after that also you have to repeat the same thing. And then you go on and on and on. During this process, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the uncertainty which was troubling you has gone. It has given a certain element of certainty in the sense you don't know whether what effect it will have on you, but at least you know that for next 15 minutes or next 5 minutes, I have to repeat only this name, which I have been given by my master or guru, or which I have practicing. So the effect or the power of japa is in repetition. That's one thing which is established. And that is why Patanjali says, he says you can take any object or any name, but he recommends pranava or om. So that is the shortest and the most powerful mantra, which is known as the pranava is known as the universal bija mantra. It is a universal sound. That's why Indian tradition, even Buddhist tradition, even in the Jain tradition, om is used. So it is a part of our daily practice. But along with that, since we are not used to one particular sound symbol, we allow a few more. Like we allow a bija, we allow a name, we allow a form, because we cannot give up form so easily. All the forms that we see are to be replaced with one form which I like most. Depending on how much you like that form, your japa will be successful. That is why if you see all the teachings of all these disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, they used to say it's not enough if you just repeat the name. You have to repeat it with a lot of love. You have to like something which you are doing. So if that element of love is there or devotion is there, then that repetition becomes more effective. And to the extent you can do it, the longer you do it, at least that much time during our busy, hectic life, we are at peace. The rest of the time, again, we'll go back to our restless self. That is what Buddha says. Misery is because there are so many desires propping up and you don't know which one to fulfill. They keep on. So he says, get rid of desires. But their way of doing it is different. This is a wonderful classification which some of our scholars have done. They say there are three types of meditation. Now I am coming to from japa to meditation. Japa is just repetition of the name. One of the main thing it does is it removes uncertainty, and if done with faith, it gives some kind of certainty or removes anxiety in our life. And if you have faith that by this repetition, there are so many people who have just by repetition and faith in they have surmounted all sorts of problems. We have so many saints who have miraculously solved so many problems, including the Holy Mother. In fact, if you see her life, she was surrounded by so much of uncertainty due to so many circumstances which you cannot imagine. Crazy people, evil people, selfish people. It's not that she was always surrounded by good people. And in the midst of all that, she performed all her duties very silently, without the least disturbance. It's not such an easy thing. If you just even think or read her life, you will understand how much of japa she might have done to maintain a sort of balance, steadiness, stateliness or steadiness in her life, in spite of everything around her unsuitable for any kind of peace. There are madcaps. You all know the life of Srima Sharda Devi. How many people who had so many variety of personalities used to surround her, and day after day, poverty, so many things. It's not one problem. But never in her life, when Sri Ramakrishna was there, or even after he passed away, maybe for a few days when he passed away, she was a bit shaken. But then immediately she recovered. And you will find there was absolutely no sort of misery in her life. She herself says, I do not, when people come and tell me, so many people come and tell me there's lack, I or never felt that. So I don't know how I can solve the problem because I see no problem at all. It's a remarkable statement because she could not feel it. The reason is there was so much certainty which she had in life because of the repetition of the holy name. That's why she could say Japat Siddhi. So she gave a very, very simple technique where psychologically or otherwise, intrinsically, the bija has its own power. It leads to meditation. Now, coming to meditation, as I said, Patanjali gives lot of ideas. Based on Patanjali's idea of dhyana, we can classify all the meditation techniques, whether we go to Vipassana, we go to Buddhist meditation, whether we go to Vedantic meditation. All meditations can be broadly classified into three major types. Because we all know when we see duality, there is an object, there is a subject. Subject means I. So I see something and it doesn't happen the way it should happen and it disturbs this I. So the subject, changes in the subject affect the object. It's a very simple idea which has resulted in three types of meditation. One is either you take care of the subject or you take care of the object. the objective reality. If an object is causing a problem, you remove it. Some type of patchwork you can do. You remove or you get away from that problem. That's another way people prefer that. So by fight or flight, you solve the objective problem. Somebody is disturbing you, you just avoid him or her. So that's one way. You fight or you fight with him and solve the problem. So fight and flight and all these subject of the objective problems can be handled. Subjective is you change the subject, you make it so strong that no objective changes or objective troubles will affect you. So that is another meditation, which is known as subjective meditation. There is an objective meditation, and there is a third type of meditation, which is known as process meditation. I'll tell you what it is. These are the three types of meditation which we need to understand before practicing. And japa leads to all the three. That is something wonderful. Japa is, that's why Mother said, Japat Siddhi. Japa leads to subjective meditation, japa leads to process meditation, japa leads to objective meditation. Everything. So the whole of meditation, the initial stage is japa, repetition of the holy name. But let us forget japa for the time being. Let us see what is subjective meditation. In subjective meditation, it is also known as Vedantic meditation, which is mostly done by people who focus more on Purusha rather than Prakriti. They say just ignore Prakriti, she can't trouble us. That's why they call Shankaracharyas, it is the most misunderstood word. He says it is all Maya. Maya doesn't mean it is unreal. It is definitely real, but I choose to ignore it. So they said, why are you bothered about the objective reality and changes? Just accept it. It's all Maya. It's a very simple way to explain. They said if you ignore Maya, then she will release her hold upon you. That is one way. Because you are focused on your subject. Subject is pure consciousness, which is our core, Purusha. So Prakriti cannot, even if you consider Purusha and Prakriti to be separate, she cannot have any influence on you if you just hold on to the subject. So that gave rise to a lot of meditations, include Raman Maharshi and all, where the search for self, it is also known as Advaita, where you say, my Advaitic meditation means I just go on trying to find out what the self is. And the process, as Thakur said, neti neti. It is there in the scriptures also, but neti neti means just deny the objective reality. But it's very difficult because objective reality will keep bouncing back. You can't just ignore the objective reality. The world you cannot give up. So it is meant for a selected few people. Mostly that's why monasticism, the idea of monasticism came. To the extent that Shankaracharya believed that without that you cannot do subjective meditation. Because the object should not create any problem. So reduce the objects. Even the little objects that you have to deal with, just say that is Maya and then go within. That's one way. It's the most difficult type of meditation. It appeals to a lot of people, but it's most difficult because all of a sudden or slowly you have to give up the objective reality by again and again saying it is Maya. And there are various ways of doing it. If you see the guru of Sri Ramakrishna, Totapuri, he practiced sadhana which we cannot even believe. How to get rid of Maya? So the practical examples or practical techniques which his sampradaya, he belonged to the Totapuri sampradaya at a monastery, and he joined the monastery when he was 8, very young. If you see his biography, that poor boy had how to deny. It is very easy to say everything is Maya, but then how to make it practical. So according to their tradition, it may appear to be very harsh, but the boy was told, literally brainwashed. I mean, whoever joins the monastery at a very young age, because if the younger you begin, the better. They were told that this Jagat is not existing. When that same idea he had, he even said, Kali is also it's part of Maya. He made fun of Thakur. When he came to Dakshineshwar, by the time he came, he was already practicing Advaita for 40 years. And what is the sadhana? That objective reality has to be denied. How do you deny it? At least do not allow it to affect you. So, what is one of the few sadhanas, I'll tell you what they do in their monastery to get rid of the idea of the object. They said, you should not stay in a place for more than 3 days. That is an unwritten rule, and they followed it. Till he came to Dakshineshwar. He traveled all over India, and you should not stay under a roof. That means whether it rains or whether it is hot, or you just have to stay under a tree. The only luxury that was allowed was a tree if it rains. So that your body gets used to the fact that these things are insignificant. So if it is Maya, then you have to convince your mind that this is Maya. So see the extreme type of sadhana they had to do. He had to do in his tradition. And he says for 40 years after practicing that, I got realized the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi when he was totally convinced. But see the amount of struggle. So you see how difficult subjective meditation is. If it is all Atman, the self cannot be disturbed by rain or sunshine or people. I don't even know. I am here 3 days, I leave this place, I don't know whom I met, and don't care. So that is how, by neti, you get rid of Maya. Philosophically, it looks very nice, but see, if you try to practice it, even a little of it, how difficult it will be. Even for monastics, and forget others who have so many things. So even to forget the idea of the body, Raman Maharshi and all, if you see all the tradition which is based on the denial of the objective reality is known as subjective meditation. So subject is so important that only one thing remains, the Atman, and the deep search within, where only the consciousness is to be attained by denying the objective reality, is their sadhana. That is, all meditations, whether it is Advaita or there are so many other schools, including Raman Maharshi school, that everybody was following the path of subjective meditation, especially Advaitins, where object has to be given less importance first and then absolutely no importance. So the self is the only thing that possesses such person. So instead of japa, which is constantly repeating a name, they are repeating the idea of self. What is this Atman? What is this self? The search for self. That is subjective. Now, another discovery, not discovery, it is part of the Upanishads. They said, let us just see whether the objective meditation, is there something known as object, which Patanjali said there is. Can you meditate on an object and reach the same state as subjective meditation? They found, yes, it works. Because in reality, there is only one. Whether you meditate on an object, it should be on one. And Japa also says it should be one which is repeated again and again, so that duality vanishes. It's duality that gives you the problem. So you, instead of meditating on the subject, which is more difficult, select an object which you like. Say Sri Ramakrishna, Rama or Krishna, some Ishta. And automatically, when you are so devoted to that object, it is known as objective meditation, you forget your own subjective reality. You become one with the object. Finally, that also leads to dhyana. Just as subjective meditation, when it is taken to the highest state, which Totapuri did for 40 years, but he was surprised when Sri Ramakrishna just achieved that goal in 4 days. He used to meditate and then suddenly Kali would come, the image of Kali. So he said, no, that is also Maya, just get rid of it. So Thakur said, how can I do it? I have been worshipping the object that was Kali in front of me as a mother, and you just come and tell me Kali doesn't exist. So he said, no, in Jnana you have to. You use the sword of knowledge and cut that Kali into pieces. And that led to subjective meditation. Suddenly he realized, and Totapuri was surprised, I have been practicing sadhana for 40 years. And at the end of it, somehow I got Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But here is a student who does it in 3 days in that kutia. So similarly, Sri Ramakrishna showed that even if you have devotion to a form, Ma Kali in his case, and you continue with a personal objective meditation. Ultimately, if the devotion is deep, your subject merges into the object. The object vanishes and the subject, only one reality remains. So the idea is all the meditations that we do, we don't think the object is real. The object is one. That is why when they say Vaikuntha, many people just make fun. How can there be an eternal heaven? How can you go into a loka which is known as Vaikuntha? So if you see the Radha's devotional temperament, it was for her everything was Krishna. It was an Advaitic vision. The Yamuna river black reminded her of her Krishna, though he was not present in Vrindavan. She sees a tree, she used to remember, oh, Krishna used to stand under the tree. So it was a kind of Advaitic vision, though the object was Krishna, who was a personal God, who was so dear that other than that object, neither her relatives nor her children nor the other people really mattered. She was possessed with the idea of Krishna. So that Krishna became the one reality, though it is an objective reality, it led to the same meditation. In fact, if you see the another devotee of Krishna, Uddhava, he's sent to Vrindavan because Uddhava had an ego that he is a great devotee of Krishna. So Krishna wanted to teach him a lesson. He said, why don't you go and just meet the gopis? They were not bothered. They did not even bother whether Krishna was there or he left. In fact, when he left at the age of 13, he was hardly a child. He never came back to Vrindavan. But they were not bothered because their objective meditation was so strong that nothing existed apart from Krishna. So Uddhava goes. Uddhava is a man of knowledge. So he has read the scriptures and he thinks he'll go and these poor gopis, what do they know of philosophy? So he is trying to explain to them, don't be sorry because Krishna is not here. He is the universal spirit and all these things he's trying to tell them. Then they just shut him up. Said, that may be true for you. For us, there is only one Krishna, one with the peacock feather. And it's not fanaticism. For them, that is objective reality was so real that all other theories, all other explanations, they did not want to hear. Vaikuntha, everything that is associated with Krishna was real. So that's how you see the same state of meditation, dhyana. And then Uddhava realizes, my knowledge is far inferior than these people. They were so keen, they did not even know that Krishna has grown up. He's an 80-year-old man. They are all old. They have seen the 13-year-old boy. They still think of him playing the flute and making mischief. The Krishna has not changed for them. And that is enough. Because that reality, as a result of constant japa or constant repetition or constant thinking, it has become an objective meditation. So objective or subjective, as in Totapuri, they lead to the same goal. Now let us come to a third type of meditation, which most of the Buddhists follow. That's why when we follow any Buddhist school or go to any, we have to be a bit careful. Because though all lead to the same goal, the paths are different. You can't tell Radha that you meditate on the self. Krishna is the self. Krishna, she says, I don't care. Krishna is my object, that small boy, and I will do only objective meditation. No amount of convincing by Uddhava could make her philosophize and say that Krishna is the self and he is within. Nothing doing. He is the object and he will remain the eternal object. Whereas subjective people, no matter how much you tell them, this God, this personal God is as real as yourself. He said, no, I don't care. In fact, Totapuri made fun. कि तुम वहां जाके काली मंदिर में रोटी क्यों बना रहे हो? He used to clap. He said, it is foolish. The mother doesn't exist because it is all Maya. This whole form is not there. And why are you going and clapping? He used to make fun. But of course, he realized, by Thakur's grace, the Guru realized that what disciple showed him that the objective reality is the same as the subjective reality. He was not wrong, neither was he wrong. Because you have to stick to your sadhana. You got Nirvikalpa Samadhi through thinking of the self. Thakur got it through thinking of Ma Kali. But they reached the same goal. The goal of meditation cannot be two. That's what I wanted to emphasize. Whether you do japa, whether you do subjective meditation, whether you do objective meditation, or you do process meditation, which is, I'll explain now. Why it is known as process meditation. You see, there was a quarrel going on, as I told you. Everybody was confusing the other in India when Buddha saw somebody said, no, Advaita is wrong. This is atheism. You don't. How can you say there is no God? There is God. There is a personal God. You have to believe in this. And people were confused, torn between whether we should do objective realization or objective meditation or subjective meditation. Because one group was pulling you, saying that subjective meditation is the only thing that should be followed. Other group was telling you that objective meditation is the only thing that you need to do, because that God is real. Both were right, but at the same time there was quarrel. So Buddha thought, because when he was born, he saw these people are quarreling. So he gave a beautiful idea. He said, don't bother about the subject, or don't bother about the objective reality. If you don't want to accept an objective reality, or that's why how they call it Shunyavada also. They say there's no self. It is a dangerous philosophy, but that is what not he meant. What he said is, there is an object outside. Take it for granted, whether it is real or not. There is a subject inside. And the problem comes only when the subject and object interact with each other. Isn't it? We have an object which sometimes gives us joy. When it is taken away, it gives us sorrow. So because that object is there, and because there is something known as subject, that I, now don't bother about the subject or the object. Problem is not because of the subject. If a nice thing which is there, if you take it away from the child, that child will feel so sad. But a grown-up person will say, okay, let it go, I'll have something else. So the subjective reality gives value to the object, and the objective reality also gives value to the subject. So instead of quarreling, he discovered a wonderful truth. He said the problem comes only when there is a connection between subject and object. And that process is a problem. Neither the objective reality nor the subjective reality is a problem. When we are trying to connect these two, what happens is, when the link is broken, you feel sad. Some object to which you are attached, the subject was attached, has been taken away from you. So you feel sad. He said, why bother about quarreling about whether God is a subject or reality is a subject or it is an object? You know, the problem is the process that connects the two. So why don't you focus on the process? So process means awareness. So that's why all their meditation is known as awareness meditation. Whether it is Zen or anything, they will ask you to feel the breath, they'll ask you to feel the parts of the body. Vipassana, there are so many hundreds of techniques. All come under a category of process meditation. So there is something which you are experiencing. Why don't you it in Advaita or the self? We don't know whether it exists or not, or we don't even have to believe in a God, personal God. So atheists, most of the atheists found this a wonderful religion. Buddha said you have a mind which is connecting the subject and object, and when the object goes away, you feel miserable. So don't bother about that. You focus on the process and try to stop that process through awareness meditation. Then you will come to a state, the same state as dhyana or meditation. So there are three parallel routes, processes or techniques which lead to the same goal of meditation. So this is, in brief, japa and meditation. the difference between japa and meditation. So in our daily life now, that will, I think I can answer those questions in the question answer session, because we have not even discussed the practical aspects. It took almost 1 hour to explain what this is, but we have half an hour. So based on what I told you, most of us, as in those who have been initiated, we normally practice the objective meditation. For us, Thakur begins Ramakrishna or any other deity whose mantra you are repeating. It can be any other sampradaya also. We mostly start with objective meditation. At the same time, we continue to read the Upanishads and Advaita Vedanta, because we know that subjective meditation will ultimately, or objective meditation will ultimately lead to the same goal. So ours is a bit liberal in the sense we accept the truth of subjective meditation, though we cannot do it right now. But because we find it easier to love a personality whose name is given to us, and name is also charged with power. That's the point. The bija, which is part of that, it helps us. Every bija is significant. It helps us to reveal the Ishta, the real nature of the Ishta. So you don't have to bother about subjective, objective, or awareness meditation. They are all theories. But when you repeat, you will find we reach the same goal by meditating on the object. Somehow it will lead us, just as Sri Ramakrishna's sadhana of Ma Kali, when Totapuri came, he somehow got rid of that form and emerged into the formless and attained the same Nirvikalpa Samadhi as his guru, who started with a subjective meditation. In his whole life, he was told objects are false. No God, deity, the weather, house, family, everything is Maya. So he used to move from place to place. But that was his way. But ultimately, it all merged. The same Nirvikalpa Samadhi both got. And if some Buddhist also joins them, he will do through his awareness meditation, he will also reach Nirvana or the Nirvikalpa Samadhi or whatever it is. They may be different names, but the state is the same. So that is I'll just conclude by saying that japa, how it works in a very simple way. One is its intrinsic power which is residing in that mantra. It's a tradition which has come to us. It's not, or it has originated by some of the greatest adepts. The japa are not arbitrary sounds or mantras, the names also. You can't just now say Rama, the name Rama has been chanted so many times by so many innumerable people. So the vibrations are still there in the air. You can't just choose to ignore that and let us create a new word and repeat that is my mantra. You can't do it. These vibrations, because of its continuity, because of a tradition which has been followed by innumerable people, the very repetition of that mantra has created those subtle vibrations which, if we practice, we become connected to that subtle universe of vibrations, and that is how progress is made. So if there are some questions, you can ask now. If I would prefer practical questions, because we have not discussed that in our daily life, how we can do it. All my time was spent in the theory. But I think the theory was clear enough. I made it very simple. Huh? Was it simple or was it tough? So I cannot make it more simple than this. There are many bij mantras. Each mantra has a particular bija, represents the deity. For example, Ganpati, Ganesh. Everybody knows the famous mantra. It is there on YouTube also. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Normally, Ye Namaha means two. It is in Chaturthi, that is, you are addressing it to Ganpati. So you have chosen Ganesh as your Ishta. And the bija is Gam. The bija, now, one very strange thing or important thing about the bija is every bija ends with a anuswara. Have you seen? Gum, cream, ream, shreem. There is that ma, or there is a anuswara. Anuswara means normally anuswara puts an end to something. It's like a full stop in a sentence. So most of the words, or it's exactly not like a full stop. Full stop puts an end to a sentence, but here it puts an end to something which is significant. So say Om Gam Ganapataye Nam. Gam is the one word. Then let us take, there's a mantra of mm, Kali, which is clean, or there is cream, which is used for Krishna. There are different mantras, different bijas. Sometimes there is a combination of bijas. So in all of this, you will find, if you want to go a little deeper, I just gave you an example. All of them basically end with ma. That is anuswara. Anuswara, when you say R, say for example, cream, you will find K, R, double E. Normally it is a long word. Long in the sense long vowel. Cream. You can't say cream. Cream. It's long. So there is a particular purpose to that also. And then there is ma. This is just a bija I'm giving you. So this particular bija signifies ka, the first alphabet of any bija. It signifies the eternal reality, which is Brahman or Purusha. Purusha is represented by the first alphabet, Ka. Then comes Ra, which is half. It is not full. Cream. When you say cream, long. This is according to there is a beautiful book on Vaishnava Tantra. In Vaishnava, there are two tantras. Ek Shaiva Tantra, where Shiva is the presiding deity. Even Vishnu's Vishnu, or those who are believing in Vaishnavas, they have their tantra where Radha is the female deity, Radha and Krishna. So anyway, these are technical things. But for every bija, the explanation that is given is Ka, the first alphabet, represents Purusha. The beginning was the word. The word was with God, and the word was God. So the word was God is Ka. It is only one reality existed. There was nothing other than one reality. But however, when according to Shakti Tantra, that Shiva or Purusha, slowly the unmanifest Prakriti was that Ra, because Ka and Ra were attached to each other. They were not separate entities. Cream. In cream, you don't say Ka Reem, you say cream. Ka and Ra are together. So it is symbolizes Avyakta Prakriti. The Prakriti is Shakti, is completely one with Shiva. The word was with God. It's not separate. Then what happens is when you say E, that is symbolic. All these are symbolic. When you say cream, E is when that Prakriti says, converts herself into Vyakta Prakriti, the manifest universe. So that is when all the creation starts, and that's when all the trouble starts. So you need to put an end to that and go back to your original state. So that is done by the Ma. So that says now enough, put a full stop. So every time you say cream or any bija, it puts an end to a little karma. There are so many which we have accumulated. So the idea is every time you repeat, the bija itself is powerful enough to destroy. But of course, you need more things. You need the name of the Lord after that. Om also you need. Om is a universal bija. It represents Shabda Brahman. That is Brahman without any. Bija comes a little less in hierarchy because it explains both Purusha and Prakriti, how they are related to each other and how to get rid of the impact of Prakriti on Purusha, which is causing all the trouble. So, as I said, when you want a sentence to stop, you put it does the same. So, the idea of, but every mantra, which according to the tantras, other traditions may not use bija. If they don't believe in this, they say Om is enough. But at least Om should be there. Hari Om, you can say Hari Om, they say. Hari and Om. So there is no bija necessary. So is a universal bija, but this is an additional bija because when you accept two realities, one is Shakti, another is Purusha and Prakriti, and you want to get rid of the effect of Prakriti on the pure consciousness. That's in general the basic idea behind this bija mantras. Now, one of the deities, he had many ishtas. He is, you can't compare with, or we need one ishta, but he had everyone and all were equally powerful. He also had Radha Kanta, Ram Lala. He didn't have Mahakali. Don't make him just one ishta. He could have 100 ishtas. He is not like us. 2 days to realize. So, we for us, it is enough if we realize one ishta. But for him, he just came to show Mahakali is as important as Radha Krishna, as important as Ram Lala, as important as Gopala. He worshipped Gopala also. Yeah, so like the Vaishnava. Huh? So that's mean all Diji will be included. Yes, Sarva Deva Devi Swarupa. That's the mantra we chanted, na? Om Sarva Deva Devi Swarupaya. Because Sri Ramakrishna demonstrated actually that in his life, it is a unique life. He accepted all just to show the world that you don't quarrel whose deity is better than others. All are equally important, and no deity is also important. Like Totapuri, he accepted him also. Not only that, he accepted Mahendra Lal Sarkar also, who swore by science. He said all is humbug. Either Advaita, Dvaita, Yoga, Bhoga, everything is humbug. He just believed in the power of science. He was a doctor. Even he was accepted because atheism, according to Thakur, is also a path. If anybody thinking about the Krishna, if anybody is thinking about the Buddha, so everybody can come to Ramakrishna and they can. Yes, ideally, yes. Ideally, yes. Yes, that's why we have no problems with any sect. People who come to our. No, Ishta is one thing. Having Ishta as Sri Ramakrishna is one thing. There, but it doesn't prevent you from going to other temples, other religious places also. So you can see the Christ in Ramakrishna because Sarva Deva Devi means all forms and no form also. So Advaitin can come to Ramakrishna, a non-believer can come to Ramakrishna, anybody can come. That is why this Sarva Deva Devi Swarupaya, this was coined by Swamiji himself. Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharma swarupine avatara varishti. That was because he got convinced that he was not just theoretically telling that all gods are same. He really believed. He believed in Krishna as much as Kali. Krishna and Kali were not different for him. Literally. Through sadhana he showed. Not theoretically. That I will worship Kali and Krishna is okay, but I'll worship Kali. That is the idea with most of us. But he did not like that. He said, because you worship Krishna, that doesn't mean you should not worship Kali. If you hate, then there is something wrong. Because all paths lead to the same goal. Yeah.
You say is one of the best tips in our daily life to develop patience because we're so target goal driven. We feel like things we do and do achieve, but our goal spiritually is so tenuous. It seems we have to get more patient.
Yeah, but for all of us, it is the same technique. It is repetition. So constant repetition gives steadiness. Steadiness gives some kind of patience. We will lose patience, but what is there? It is part of Prakriti. You don't bother. It will happen to everyone. There is a limit to patience, isn't it? So you have to increase the limit by more effort. Japa is a universal solution for all the problems. Holy Mother once said, if you believe teaching that the easiest and the best way to solve all the problems of life, not just spiritual, all, is to take the name of the Lord in silence. Silence is, she has added this word. You can take the name, but at least you have to make effort to get some kind of individual solitude or silence. For those who have silence I mean, if God has given that opportunity or that facility, then silence is easily available to them. But some people have to create it. Like Master Mashai, he had to find out some place where he could be silent. There were so noisy people around him. If at family, the family was the most craziest family. I mean, so much of quarrels, fights. It's a joint family. So he found the top of the terrace, the landing in the terrace. If you go there, there is a beautiful shrine there. He has made a shrine. That's the only part of the house which was not noisy. So he managed to find solitude even in the most, and even in the school. The whole gospel was written almost. He meditated on, after classes are over, there will be some gap, isn't it? He was a busy teacher. So he would silently escape from all the other teachers and go to the top of that building, and the place which is not visited, because the last stairs when they land terrace, you will again be disturbed by the weather and all. But before the terrace, there is a landing there. Normally, nobody uses it. It's used as a dump place, even in house. So in the house also he used that, because Thakur told him, my house is so noisy. He said, you have to find some place. So in the school also he managed to get. So in the midst of so much of in a hectic life, full of noise, he found silence. But mother, I think she must have thought that without silence, some silence to begin with, it's difficult to practice. You need silence. Not mental, physical also. A little bit. Yeah, that is Ishta. You normally don't change because, huh? No, everybody could hear what she said. She said, "How do you know who your Ishta is?" So yeah, that's a question you have to. The idea is it's not a question of choice. It's once it is selected, you have to stick to it. That's more important, because as I told you, the whole talk was based on that. It doesn't matter which Ishta you start with. It ultimately leads to the same reality. Ishta or no Ishta, or even atheism will lead to the same. I mean, like Buddhas. The people say Buddhists were atheists because they did not believe in objective God, nor do they believe in their the self-realization and all those things. So you may say that it is a sort of atheism, though he did not. It is wrong to classify Buddhism as an atheistic religion. It is completely uh, but not theistic as we understand it. So now coming to who is the Ishta, it doesn't really matter. Once you select, Ishta means somebody whose mantra is connected to that particular form, and once that is connected, that mantra will be valid only for that. So you have to see that the connection, the form and the name do not change. That will make your progress faster. All Ishtas, all names are the same, but you have to stick to one. That's the idea. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
How would you say, how would you measure your japa? Whether you are doing? Is there any sort of...
No, there is no, I mean, as in you can get, evaluate yourself by marks, what is your grades. You can't give grades for japa. It is something you will feel yourself. Nobody else can judge. They may just, no, they may judge by seeing that there is a huge difference in what you were 10 years ago and what you are now. So externally they may assume that, oh, this person has changed a lot. He's much more patient, is much more calm, is much more steady. So he may assume that it is a result of your japa, but person who does is the best judge. But even he should not judge, according to Holy Mother. And Jesus Christ said, "Judge not that ye be not judged." So that doesn't mean you should not judge others, but you should not even judge yourself. Because if you try to judge, the thing is uh, you'll not continue. If you think if your judgment is wrong, you'll think you have attained to a certain stage and you will not stop. So his idea was you just go forward. Don't judge. Wherever you are, at least if you go forward, you'll go a few steps more. There's nothing wrong in going more. There's no end to that. So you just go on progressing. So it's better not to judge ourselves. Yeah. How do you?
Even spouse.
Oh, yeah. 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 Children, it's a big challenge because they are exposed to. Yeah. The question I have to repeat. The question is, how can we introduce children to the practice of japa and meditation? Yeah. Obviously, if you use the techniques that people use in schools, it won't work. Because in schools, there is a target set. And you have to do, if you want to earn a living, you can put a lot of pressure, and that doesn't normally work. So here, maybe you have to, it is very, very difficult to explain the importance of japa and meditation even to adults. So forget the children. So that is one thing. So children, in fact, can be more easily trained because they have, the first 10 years of their life, it is known as a place, it is known as a time when they absorb things. Like a sponge, they absorb whatever is there around them. Their logical thinking starts at the age of, say, 10, 12, or even teenage. Then they start questioning. So before that is the ideal age. So in our tradition, it was part of our culture that the Gayatri Mantra was given. I was wondering why it is an arbitrary age of 6 and 8. We do it as a tradition. They'll say, your child is crossed 8, you are not yet done Upanayana and not given Gayatri. So it was mandatory. But of course, now nobody follows it. But it was mandatory. Why they chose the age of 6 and 8? Because from that age till the age in where they start questioning things, a lot of progress can be made. Simply, if they're younger than they're too young, you can't even explain the benefits. Whereas the Gayatri Mantra itself is a kind of japa, though it is a prayer. Gayatri Mantra is a prayer actually. Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Deva. So, along with the meaning, the idea behind that Gayatri Mantra is the idea behind all the mantras that you do, with or without bija. So, since the idea of giving name with bija mantra was not prevailing in those days, the oldest Rig Veda, it's from the Rig Veda, and Gayatri Mantra was considered for many, many centuries as a universal uh, prayer which will lead to meditation. So it took the role of, and what happened was, unfortunately, it was monopolized by the Brahmins. First it was monopolized by the men, because there's nowhere in the scriptures it is mentioned that Upanayana is only for men. Now, if they'll laugh, how can you give Upanayana to a girl? So there was no gender differentiation. Everybody had to do it. Long, long ago. I mean, maybe in the Vedic times, there was no distinction. But somehow, first the women were left out. Then lower castes, the so-called castes, they said no, only Brahmins will have the privilege. So ultimately, that practice became so rare that, first of all, 6 to 8 deadline which our Shastras gave, because they found that is the most suitable age, where you basic idea behind the mantra, if you explain, you are asking the knowledge, or asking the sun, who symbolizes knowledge, to illumine the darkness or ignorance within us. That is the idea of the prayer. Dhiyo yona, dhiyo means buddhi. So my buddhi, my understanding, my wisdom is not good enough, but I want to increase it. So I pray to the sun because sun symbolizes knowledge. So let that knowledge come to me so that I can become wiser. That's the simple meaning of Gayatri and the simple meaning of all the mantras. Ultimately, it is the spiritual light that we seek, but even for normal wisdom, we need that. So Gayatri would lead that child. So that is when he went to school. So as he grew up, along with secular knowledge, he had this spiritual training. That is how you can inculcate. Started Gayatri because it may not be possible to get. Though in our tradition we give mantra diksha to younger people, but normally not before 12 or 14. So to begin with, Gayatri is a very good Gayatri mantra. It's a very good beginning if you explain the meaning. Not that you just tell him you have to repeat this, then he will repeat like a parrot. That's not the idea. You have to tell that you see every time you repeat this prayer, your wisdom is growing. You are becoming more peaceful, more restful. Your restlessness is going. And then first thing is even before mental restlessness, we don't train the children to sit quietly. That things it's things we think that it's such a simple thing. What is there? But you try to tell a person do nothing, just sit like this. Why? Just sit. Can you make that is the idea behind asana. Patanjali does not begin with pranayama or other forms of practice till he's adept in asana. What is asana? Sthiram sukham asana. That position in which you are sthira. Can you make your body steady? Forget the mind. Mind will not become steady. It's already restless. So if your body is steady, it is a asana. Whichever position you may sit. Anything that helps you to settle down quietly is asana. So you begin with asana, then you help pranayama to to calm down the forces which are making you restless. Because they believed prana is a connection on the mind. And breath is one of the pranas, not all. There are 5 pranas, one prana. So you do pranayama, sit quietly, do little pranayama, regular breathing, that's all. You don't have to do various exercises. And then mental training will start. So for children, the first 2 steps, asana and pranayama, enabling the child to sit quietly and just breathing exercise. Just don't be restless, don't always. The more faster the breath, the more restless the person. Animals also, you'll see, most of the dogs and all, they breathe very fast. You see, pranayama, there is a wonderful demonstration in the animal kingdom. And the tortoise and the others who breathe very slowly, maybe 10 breaths a minute, they are the calmest among the animals also. Forget men. The elephant, you see, if you see biology, if you read biology, they'll say the breath rate is slow, measured. Whereas dogs always become breathless. So they are restless. You can't very rare to see a quiet dog or a monkey. The breath rate increases as the restlessness increases. So pranayama and these 2 are the basic things. But then meditation is definitely japa and meditation. Japa is another way before meditation. Just asking the child to repeat. Repetition is important, let me tell you. If you teach him 25, 30, 40 shlokas, it's good. His memory power will increase. But if you don't teach him to repeat something and make it a habit, then it will not work. That is the idea behind japa. To achieve any skill, mind you, even to become a good flute player or a piano player, you have to practice. Then it will involve so many repetitions, isn't it? Then it's not doesn't come in a day. So one is repetition, whatever they do, whatever japa they do. Gayatri was one of them, Gayatri mantra, because that is a sacred mantra in our tradition. It is the essence of all mantras. Ramakrishna gave so much importance. He said Gayatri, Vedas, the whole essence of Vedas merge into Gayatri. Gayatri merges into Om. If you say Om, it is enough. But then, or Om also is fine. Gayatri mantra is not given. So in the Hindu tradition, these things were all built in our culture, but unfortunately it is missing. Yes.
You have any recommendation of what to do when the mind gets interested in more variety then?
More
Variety.
variety. No, that is the nature of the mind. There's nothing wrong. We don't have to be excessively worried about that. Because variety is life. I mean, those who want to enjoy life, how can they enjoy without variety? That's not the problem. If the variety is making you restless, then it is a problem. People can deal with variety. You see, for example, this very topic, importance of japa and meditation in our daily life. We assume that our daily life is so busy. There is variety. From morning to evening, how much variety is there? But the importance of japa and meditation, it gives some kind of stability with this variety. So don't hate variety. You can't just, it's only a few who can say, I don't want variety. Then you have to become a monk or a very serious monk like Totapuri, which is very difficult. No variety at all. No variety, no choice of food, no choice of house. He didn't have a problem building a house. To stay wherever he could, and that also 3 days. So imagine there is no absolutely no variety. It just ignores nature. Said everybody says you need a house to protect yourself. He says, why do I need a house? I don't need. Then he says, whether 3 days, why 3 days? They made the rule. It's a very great psychological trick they played. I mean, they used. If you are not, if you want to remove attachment, then you can't stay for more than 3 days. You just like a rolling river, a flowing river, it doesn't stagnate. So all these techniques are done. Variety is definitely not avoidable, but to see the unity in variety, unity in diversity is the goal. Ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti means truth is one, but sages call it by different names. So we hold on to the name that will give some kind of semblance of unity in our life, which will not shake us, and then learn to live with variety. Giving up variety is not so easy. Of what? No, example means as in, okay, that's what the topic is. Japa and meditation gives you unity because you are repeating the same. At the same time, you have variety in your life. Since morning, you have to do so many things. So unity in variety. Do japa. Siddhi, when mother said, her life was full of variety. Getting up, cooking, then taking care of the crazy Radhu and her mother, both their different tantrums and so many problems. Variety was there. There was no more variety. And all the disciples, half of them were crack. One disciple went and banged her head, on the mother's toe. So much of Guru Bhakti. Everybody thought it is Guru Bhakti. Then said, why did you do it? It hurt me. Just banged it very hard on the toe of the mother. So the disciple, then mother asked, why did you do it? It has hurt me. He said, so that you will remember me. Otherwise you will forget me. And that's not, so some crazy people will always be there. So that is variety, but she was not disturbed. That is the beauty, you see. Nobody had more variety than, at least Brahmananda and Yogananda, they just escaped. They went to their room and never met anyone. That is fine. It's easy. But mother did not run away anywhere. She stayed where everybody would even run away. Even normal people will run away. She was living and did not give up anything. That's why they said she was greater even than Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna used to go to solitude. Of course, she used to go early morning, 3 o'clock, she used to get up and practice meditation. That is different. But after that, she did not insist that don't come, and Thakur used to get disturbed. Ramakrishna, if people came, he used to run away to Panchavati. And Hridaya also, because it was so dangerous, there were snakes and other things. So people would not dare to go and disturb him there. So he wanted solitude, but mother never asked. She used to mix with everyone. That is how it has to be done. Yeah. Any one more question we can have? Because yeah.
Is meditation on music a very important
Oh yes,
question?
yes. It's a good question because at least Swami Vivekananda believed. Oh, the does music lead to meditation? Definitely, it is, because good music. I'm not talking of the pop music, which can make you more restless. Some forms of music are meant to create restlessness, or rather increase your already restless mind, because it synchronizes with your restlessness. You feel happy for the moment, but you end up with more restlessness. Whereas some music, which is very difficult to understand, uh, if you have developed some patience, a musician develops patience. So after repeated practice, it helps meditation, because a musician has to be focused on the notes, focus, repeat it again and again and again very patiently. So it increases your patience, it increases your concentration, which will lead to meditation. So that way, meditation and music are related. Music can lead to meditation depending on the type of music you have. That's why Vivekananda's, there are some wonderful thoughts on music. So he was asked, because he was a great exponent of the Drupad style of music, which is sung in some religious traditions like the Vallabh Sampradaya. They insist on not using harmonium, and just they use uh, tanpura and they sing. But anyway, Drupad music, where you need more patience, in the sense that each of these notes have to be focused upon or concentrated for a very long time, and it takes lot of time or patience. So Swami Vivekananda said it degraded into another form of classical music, which is now appreciated, because perhaps the restlessness in the world has increased. So they said Drupad was degraded when it was no longer sung in the temples. You all know of Surdas, not Surdas, Haridas, who refused to go to Akbar's court, because he said, I'm not a court musician. I sing only before God. For him, the type of music which his disciple Tansen uh, learned from his guru, but Tansen, because of employment, joined the court. But he refused to go there, because he says court is not a place for music, because there it is sung for entertainment. Of course, not Akbar's court was perhaps, they encouraged Drupad music, but later on you will find some of the court musicians invented a new form of music, which is known as khayal, which is now considered to be a Hindustani classical music. Khayal is more popular than Drupad because it is easy, and to learn Drupad and to hold on to Drupad, you require more concentration. It's as simple as that. So music, uh, that was the question, isn't it? What was the question?
Is music, is
Yeah.
meditation on music?
Yeah. So all, not all music. According to Swamiji, this is not what I'm, because I'm not a musician, but Swami Vivekananda was very clear that music was degraded when the rhythm and the laya and all, they try to speed it up to synchronize with the restless mind. So it requires according to Swamiji, it requires a very peaceful and meditative mind to appreciate Drupad. But he said, Drupad as an art is not enough. He says the ideal form of music is if the lyrics are full of devotion. So that is known as kirtan. Kirtan means not the Hari Kirtan which we jump and dance about. That is not Kirtan. The Kirtan music is also in style, but it's full of deep devotion, either to Krishna, mostly Krishna, but there is Kali Kirtan also. The Kali Kirtan is also very slow. If you see, it is sung in a Drupad style. So it's not only slow, Swamiji says two things are necessary. One is it should be of a slow tempo, which will create a mood of meditation. Second thing, it is full of meaning, deep meaning. So the Kirtan style of music added to the Drupad will produce the ideal music. That is what he said. Now, uh, we don't see so much demonstration of this kind of music. Swamiji, the ideal music, Hindustani music or Indian music, is one which is based on the science of Drupad. He calls it science of Drupad and the emotion of Kirtan. So if you somehow combine these two techniques, he says it will result. And one example I can give you is this Kali Kirtan. If I don't know if those who are from Bengal, they will understand. Most of the Kali Kirtan, and it's very popular. In fact, in Belur Math, they bring Kali Kirtan people and they sing music. Of course, it has a fast tempo also, not that always it is, but it begins with a very slow tempo. So you start with science of Drupad and combine it with devotion to Kali or Krishna or any other. Uh, Lyrics should be good. Other forms of music will help. I'm not saying Khayal is bad. Even that is tough enough. Unless the music is very, very restless or just a lot of noise, then I don't think it will help meditation. Any more? So we can have some guidance. So what I'll do is, because each one of you, at you have your own mantra and your own ishta. So no particular mantra that can be used for guided meditation. Normally we don't do it because you see each one of you has a particular mantra which is equally effective. It's the quality that is important. But there are certain basic visualizations or basic techniques which are common to all the mantras. So only those I will just discuss in the sense just, and then I will ask you to uh, close your eyes and repeat that mantra with that spirit, that particular idea which is behind the mantra. Because most of the mantras are connected with some kind of visualization and they are standard. One standard thing I will let you know, in all traditions, it is most of the traditions, not all, because some people use head also. As you all know, there are six chakras, and the seven planes. The last is Sahasrara. So, one particular chakra is chosen, which is safe. All traditions, even the Christian, they call it the prayer of the heart. Somehow, the seat of meditation is always the heart. Though there are meditation techniques where other centers can be used, but they are specialized techniques. So we will focus on the heart and focus on some common ideas and visualizations, which I'll repeat very slowly. And then 2-3 minutes, you can use your japa mantra, whatever mantra you have been fortunate enough to get, and the ishta. It can be different. So idea behind that will not change, but the ishta and the mantra will. So we start first, sit in a straight position as far as possible with the head, neck, and chest straight. Then take a few deep breaths, very slow and deep, 10 times. So do it. Closing your eyes. Keep your eyes closed and imagine the entire light of the world, wherever it is shining, the sun, the moon, the objects around us, all that light is slowly focused in the center of your heart. It's a bright, shining light. Just try to imagine. And in the midst, in the middle of that light or flame, whatever you can imagine, that condensed light is sitting your Ishta Devata, whichever form you like, and he is seated on a lotus, any lotus, but preferably a red lotus, which is used by most traditions. A red lotus on which your Ishta is sitting quietly, full of joy, bliss, and full of light. A very bright light which is illuminating the whole heart. And repeat your own mantra, or if you don't have a mantra, just Om for a few minutes. At the same time, holding on to that light and the Ishta in the midst of that light sitting on a red lotus. Now you imagine from the center of your heart or consciousness, vibrations of love and peace are sent to the east, to the west, to the north and south, everywhere. And think that all beings around you are peaceful. All beings are full of bliss. All beings are happy. So meditate like that for some time, just a minute or so. Now imagine that your own body and mind, they are very strong, healthy, peaceful, mind is peaceful, and with the steady mind and steady body, the light of your Ishta, who is within, is illumining the whole area around you, everyone in your surrounding. He is radiating peace and bliss, making not only your body peaceful and strong, steady and strong, a mind peaceful and strong, but everyone around you. Now you imagine, to maintain this steadiness in meditation and strength, you need the positive vibrations of all the saints, prophets, incarnations, wherever they exist, wherever they are located. All the vibrations and blessings of all the prophets and saints of the entire world, they are being showered upon you. Just imagine, just as you sent peace and love and strength to others, you are being replenished by these wonderful thoughts, peaceful thoughts, blessings of the different gods, goddesses, prophets, and saints. Try to imagine that for a minute or two. Now, with the blessings and wonderful vibrations that you have received, focus your mind on the Ishta Devata and repeat the mantra a few number of times for a few minutes. And every time you repeat the mantra, imagine that a little bit of the darkness of ignorance that is enveloping the heart is slowly being illumined. It is being cleaned. It will be uh, the light that will shine will remove all the dark, reach the dark corners of the heart, and your mind will be filled with wisdom. So repeat the mantra for a few minutes. But every repetition should remove a little bit of darkness of ignorance and lighting up the whole space within the heart. Next, imagine that the Ishta who is sitting the center of your heart and who is the essence of your consciousness, let him remain facing the same direction as yourself. Let him remain there seated eternally and guide you, guide all of us to do all the things that we do, our duties, our responsibilities, and in all circumstances. He does not leave the seat where we have asked him to sit, facing the same direction as yourself. And he is the Antaryami. Antaryami means he is the one who is controlling every action that we do, every thought that we think is inspired by him. So he is in control. Yami means control. Antar means his inner controller. So we have to establish him after meditating on him, do prostrations to him, pranams to him, as if he is sitting in the same direction as ourselves. And he is, as it were, along with the japa that we do, which will go on like an undercurrent, in the midst of all our activities, he will continue to guide us, inspire us, invigorate us in whatever good that we do. And it is he who is doing all these things as the inner controller and guide. So with this prayer, we have to conclude our meditation by prostrating at his feet and asking him to be eternally present in the center of our heart for our spiritual prosperity, for our strength, for our guidance, and more importantly, for our wisdom, which will enable us to make the right choices in every moment of our life. So there will be no time when he is not there. We may forget him, but we have to pray to him that even if we forget you, you don't forget us, and make your presence firm and eternal. We may ignorantly forget you now and then. Whenever we are reminded, whenever we try to remind ourselves, reveal yourself to us. But even if we forget you, you don't forget us and continue to guide and inspire us. Saying this, you have to conclude your meditation. This is just one technique. Even if one is not initiated, he just focuses on any mantra or any Ishta Devata whom he or she likes. He can do this repeatedly, this kind of guided meditation, because the essence is the same. Techniques may be different, but mantras may be different, Ishta may be different, but the same process of removing our ignorance, our giving us strength, inspiration, clear knowledge, wisdom, spiritual wisdom is to be practiced every day. So this is how, in a short span of time, just saw what, but all these things you have to do in the, as far as possible in the same sequence. First, steadying your body and mind, then invoking the prayers of all the gods and goddesses without whose help we cannot even meditate. And then, of course, the Ishta, establish him in our heart and ask him, pray to him after end of meditation to remain seated there, guide us as the inner controller, and be with us and help us to feel his presence in all the activities of our busy life. Om Shanti. शांति शांति। हरि ओम। सत श्री राम कृष्णार्पणमस्तु।